We're going to look at the Constitutional Convention. So today is going to take us a couple parts to go through some of the big key things that happen at the Constitutional Convention. So in class, we looked at this picture and we looked at some of the different parts going on. But this is a painting done many years after the Constitutional Convention has, finished and everything is done. This is like a period in our history where we're starting to do a nostalgic, a look back at our founding and our history. And so it probably looks a little bit different than what it really looked like. But at the end of the day, this is what our kind of image is now of the Constitutional Convention. So I showed you this, which kind of helps you figure out who's in the painting. But you can see all the little different pieces going on, maybe a little bit clearer than that colored picture. All right, so let's get down to like the big information. When the articles has been challenged by Shays' rebellion. So Daniel Shay and other farmers have basically led a revolution in their state. They're upset about the high taxes on their property. They're not able to pay the taxes, which meant that they would lose their livelihood, their farms. So they decided to take up arms. They barricade courts. They're trying to stop the foreclosures of their farms. And this is in the New England area. They're having a really hard time putting down the rebellion. So remember, the states have asked the federal government under the articles for help. They're like, help, help, help. But the federal government really wasn't able to do anything. And they're not able to do anything because they really can't enforce the collection of debts and taxes because they don't have an executive. But they also don't have the power to do taxes to collect them like that. They don't have a military either to help them out with just the insecurity issues that are going on in these areas. It's an open riot rebellion in these areas. Finally, the Shays rebellion and his followers, it does get put down, but it takes a really long time. And it kind of shows that this country is not going to stay a country for much longer under the Articles of Confederation. This is a true test of this brand new government, and it has failed. So the 13 states have agreed that they're going to send delegates, or ambassadors, to Philadelphia. Their mission when they go there is to fix the articles. That is their job. So the states have said, look, Bob, you're going to go here. You're going to do a problem solution chart. Here are the problems. Here are the solutions. And you guys are going to fix the articles. The problem is that we talked about, in order to fix the articles, you have to have 100% approval. You cannot amend or fix the articles unless you have everybody on the same page. So when they get there, the Philadelphia, their real big question is, should we keep it or should we not keep it? They've been thinking about it the whole way on the journey. And now that they get there, one brave soul kind of says, I think we need to get rid of this. And then they kind of all jump on board. So each state had sent people. When they get to Philadelphia, they start talking. Someone voices their concern that they need to get rid of it, and then finally they vote, and a resolution is made that the articles just had to be thrown away and replaced altogether. You can't fix it, it's just too broken. It's not worth putting any more time and energy into it because of all the problems that are going on. So right away, our delegates now at the Constitutional Convention, because it kind of changes names. In the beginning, they're really just going there to fix the articles, but now they're going, and now what they're going to go ahead and do is create the brand new U.S. Constitution. So that's why we kind of call it the Constitutional Convention. They wouldn't have called it that, but we do. all the guys there are like, look, one of the biggest problems with the articles is we only have one branch government. We only had a legislative branch. So we know that, with Montesquieu and the Enlightenment, we should probably have three branches to do a checks and balances. So they go ahead and they all agree. We're going to create an executive, we're going to create a judicial, and we're going to have a legislative. So they're all on the same page. We're going to have a three-branch government. Now, how that's going to look is where they get into some disagreements. Okay, so you've probably heard the saying, the devil is in the details. And that is where the delegates, the founding fathers, are really going to start having disagreements and arguments at the Constitutional Convention. So they're good for creating an executive branch for the federal government. They're good with creating a judicial branch for the federal government. So we're going to have a branch that's going to enforce the federal laws. We're going to have a branch that's going to judge and interpret the federal laws to ensure that they're legal. So they've got that. They're like, that's cool. We're good with that. The hardest part is the creation of the legislative branch. And the reason why that becomes a really big struggle is because of what that branch can do. The branch makes your laws. The power to make laws is the power to control, the power to run. And the founding fathers are very aware of that. Like, your executive just enforces the law. And I know you've probably heard teachers say, look, I don't make the school rules, I just enforce it. That's kind of what you got with the executive. They don't make the law, they just go about enforcing the law. Same thing with cops. Same thing with anybody in the executive part of our government. So agencies like the CDC, the FDA, those are executive agencies. They just enforce the law. They're a little bit different, but we'll get into that later. The judicial branch just interprets whether those laws are fair and just, and should they be applied in this case or not. So it's really the legislative that holds a lot of power in the government as far as how these two other branches are going to kind of operate in some ways. So as the debate really goes on, you start getting two teams developing. You get a Virginia team and a New Jersey team. Virginia is a very large slavery state, and New Jersey is a very small state. And I know we don't think of that like that today. Like, if you look at Jersey, it has a big population. And if you look at Virginia, it would not have that big of a population today. But Virginia and New Jersey, it's a very different country back then. Things are different. And so as the debate gets very heated between Virginia and Virginia's followers and New Jersey and their followers, what we're going to start to see is the Constitutional Convention breaking down. If a deal cannot be reached between these two opposing sides, we will not have a government. Like, it is getting that bad. So everyone at the Constitutional Convention is kind of split. They're either Team Virginia or Team Jersey, and there's really no two ways about it. So Connecticut comes up with a deal. So as the debate goes on, Connecticut is starting to see, we're gonna lose this. We're gonna lose this new government. We're gonna lose the country. So what they decide to do is they're gonna create a new compromise. So this diagram kind of just shows you what each of the branches does. So if you're a little confused, and we're going to go into more detail as the course goes on about what they do. But like our legislative, they make our laws, they do all these other things. The executive is going to enforce the law, and the judicial is judging and interpreting whether the law is legal or not. So each one of them checks each other. And because we have three, we really do have a system of checks and balances. It's built in there. Like, they make the law, the legislative, the president is going to go ahead and sign those in the law. But if the president feels that those laws are not right, there's something's wrong, then the president is allowed to veto or strike out the law. If they make a law and the president has signed it in the law, but maybe that law is not the greatest law, you and I can challenge it in a court. And when we challenge it in the court, what they're going to do is they're going to determine whether that law is constitutional, legal, or not. If they say it's not, it gets thrown out. And that is a really quick way for me to explain checks and balances. We will go into it far more in depth in the next unit, but just to kind of give you an overview. So back to our legislative plans on how they're going to make the law. The Virginia plan called for a bicameral legislature. Bi means two, like bicycle. So they wanted a two-house lawmaking branch. They would also like those two houses that they're going to create to be based on population. Virginia was a heavily populated state. So if you go back to the US Census, okay, and you start looking at like back then what Virginia's population was, it's a pretty sizable area. So they were a heavily populated state, and they're doing this because if you count representation based on population, they would have more votes, more representatives in the brand new legislative branch. They're trying to control it. And all the big states like this plan because this plan sounds really awesome to them. Because it sounds like to them they're going to be able to control the brand new government, all the big states. And now remember, Virginia at this time and most of these big states are plantation states. So they had a huge plantation system and they had a huge enslaved population, and they're trying to count their enslaved people in their population. So it's kind of it's a shady way to make their population really increase. Because if you really just looked at white males in their area, it really wouldn't be that many. But if you included the entire enslaved population, well, then Virginia's got a big population. Like if you counted people as human beings, then yes, Virginia has a high population. New Jersey sees what Virginia is doing and they're like, So New Jersey decides we need a one house legislative branch, and what we would like is it to be equal. You get one vote per state. Representation is going to be the same or equal for all states. We're going to get one vote. Virginia, you're going to get one vote. Everybody's going to get one vote because no one state should dominate this brand new government. Because, see, Virginia and other southern states want to control the brand new government. So Jersey's like, you can't do that. That's wrong. It's illegal. And a lot of small states really sided with New Jersey because they feel like their voice would not be heard if this becomes the plan. They're afraid that they will be dictated, told all the time what they can and can't do by big states. So now we've got our little battleground. We got the pro-Virginia people, the pro-Jersey people, and eventually Connecticut goes to both of these tables and they get both of these people to agree to the Great Compromise or the Connecticut Plan. They do get a bicameral legislature, so Virginia kind of gets what they wanted there. There's going to be a two house, but Connecticut tells Jersey, just hold up, just listen to what we say. We're going to make two houses. You're going to get one, Virginia's going to get one. And then both of you guys should be happy. So the lower house, or the House of Representatives, is going to be what Virginia wanted. It's going to be a population-based house. New Jersey, what you wanted, equality, you're going to get that in the upper house, the Senate. So everybody's going to get two votes. So North Carolina and California, we both have two senators from our state. However, in the House, we're different. California has 53 representatives. North Carolina has 13 because it's based on our state's population. When both these houses meet together, it's called the United States Congress.